Hello, everybody. If you don't know who Ric O'Barry is, he is a legendary dolphin activist who's known for the documentary The Cove that won the Academy Award as well as every other award a documentary could possibly win. It's all about the dolphin trafficking and the dolphin slaughter that goes on in Taiji, Japan. He went down there to expose the secret slaughter that goes on every year and the billions of dollars that's made from it. We also get into his friend John Lilly and his NASA-funded research on non-human intelligence involving dolphins back in the day when he was working on Flipper, and all kinds of other crazy stuff. This episode's packed with gems, and I know you guys are gonna love it. So please hammer that subscribe button below the video if you haven't already, and enjoy the show. Mwah! All right, Rick. Thank you so much for coming, man. It's an honor to have you on here. I've been trying to get you on the show for years.
Oh, I didn't know that. I would have showed up earlier.
I didn't know you were in St. Pete. Last time I heard, you were in Indonesia, then you were in Denmark, and then you were in Tahiti. Who knows? You're trotting. You're still trotting the world, and
I am.
You're in your early 80s. Is that right?
84. Yeah.
84.
Yeah.
That's incredible that you're still moving around like that.
Yeah. When I came here a year ago, I didn't expect to. I was hoping to stay on the beach for a little while, but I've been in Portugal and Japan, Denmark, Norway, Sweden, chasing a whale up the coast, a beluga whale. I haven't been here very much, actually. But you got a nice place here.
Thanks. I appreciate it.
I haven't seen much of it yet.
Well, there's not much to see except for this room and the room we were just in. But you said you were chasing a beluga whale?
A beluga whale by the name of Vladimir, escaped from the Russian Navy. It's believed. Nobody knows for sure, but there are a lot of there are several people who work in that in Russia with the Russian dolphins and have worked with these beluga whales, who confirmed that he was a Russian spy whale. So we don't have any data like a birth certificate, and it's important because dolphins that are born in captivity are very different from dolphins that are born in the wild. They're a completely different animal. Many of these dolphins right here, in fact, Clearwater probably, and SeaWorld and these places around here, all over Europe and places, especially northern Europe, where the climate is cold, they suffer from the cold weather, I believe, because all of the dolphins, every one of them in Europe, for example, originally were captured in Florida, near Pine Island, Florida, or Cuba. So they are indeed subtropical creatures. Nobody ever thinks about that. I think about it when I'm standing outside the Hagenbeck Zoo in Hamburg, Germany, with snow up to my knees, and it's wind's blowing and it's freezing cold, and I'm out there protesting, and nobody thinks when they buy a ticket they're going to go inside this building. They're going to see dolphins that were captured in Florida that shouldn't be here in the first place. So we try to expose all of these things, hoping that people will think twice before they buy a ticket for a dolphin show. That's what we do.
So going back to the Russian spy whale.
Yeah, Vladimir. I'll go back there. I'm just waiting right now for the ice to melt, because the ice on the roads, we have a home in Denmark, and my wife Helena and I will put the car, what we do is put the car on the ferry boat, and we go to Sweden, drive off, and then we have people on the ground who know where Vladimir is, and we're in touch with them, and we'll drive there. We follow him all the way up the coast from Sweden to Norway last time we were there. But now it's really frozen and dangerous to drive, for me especially, because it's ice and snow, and I'm not used to it.
So do you think they have him retrofitted with some sort of radio transmitters or some cameras and stuff?
Yeah, he showed up with cameras, GoPros. He's wearing a harness.
What?
Canvas harness.
Is there photos of this?
Yeah. You can Google it in Valdemir. And
Valdemir the spy
so
whale?
this is not live, is it?
No, it's not live.
Okay,
no,
because
we released it.
you can insert voiceover. I'll tell you where that footage is.
Well, Steve,
I'll send you some actually.
Steve actually, he's on the computer. He can actually Google stuff like as we're talking, and he can pull it up and show it to us.
So it's HVALDIMIR, Valdemir. He was featured in the New York Times cover of the New York Times Magazine about 2 weeks ago. It's a big 4 or 5 page story, photograph.
Good images. This guy.
There's the harness there.
Wow.
Oh, no way. Oh,
Yeah, he's very underweight here. You can't tell, but I can. Right, the one on the lower left, he's really, he's in bad shape there.
Wow.
That's when he left the Arctic Circle and started traveling towards Sweden and Denmark. That's when I left here and got on the first plane and tried to interrupt him, turn him around, because he will not find another beluga whale once he leaves the Arctic Circle and starts heading in that direction. He's going in the wrong direction.
Mm-hmm. That's so sad, man.
Yeah, and he is the friendliest of all the dolphins I've worked with, and I've worked with a lot of dolphins and whales in the last, before Flipper, 60-something years. He is by far the friendliest, and he just goes right up to people. Like if he could hug them, he would. And my fear is he's going to be transferred to an area in the north of Norway where there are about 300 hungry polar bears. And so
You think
that's
polar bears will get them?
I don't know. I mean, nobody knows. You would never be able to monitor him there. But this whale swam into the largest whaling nation on planet Earth. Right?
Right.
So the government, what we've been trying to do, the Dolphin Project at least, we've been trying to get the government to step up and take responsibility, to actually make him a citizen and let him and assign a cadre of 5 or 6, could be Coast Guard or Forest Rangers or somebody, to be there with him. There are some civilians you see in that photograph. They're doing that, but the government should do that. The government just wants to get rid of him. He's an embarrassment.
Really?
Yeah, if they protect him, well, how about the other whales you're killing? You're killing more whales than anybody on the planet.
Russia?
No, this is Norway.
Oh, Norway. Okay.
Russia did. They stopped. But now it's Norway, Iceland, Japan.
So Norway's killing more whales than Japan?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. Since when?
Yeah. The last year or two.
That's crazy. Norway is
they've now become the largest. The numbers, how many whales they kill, that's based on how many they kill. So he swam into, and I'd like for him to stay right there and bring as much media attention as he can to the fact that Norway is killing whales unnecessarily. They don't have to do this. So there are fish farms. That's what these guys here you're looking at on this photograph work at the fish farm. These are salmon farms. Norway is a very, very rich country, and they make their money on oil and salmon. Almost all salmon you eat now worldwide is from Norway.
interesting.
And don't eat it. It's it was exposed on Seaspiracy. There's a movie on Netflix everybody should see. If you are still eating salmon, go to Netflix and look at Seaspiracy.
Why? What's wrong with the salmon?
It's disgusting. It's just, I don't want to. People are eating when they're watching this show. And
It's okay. It doesn't matter. We can make them throw up.
It's disgusting. They only are what they shovel in there to them. And,
so, like, you mean like they're raised on farms, right? They're farm salmon.
Yeah, they're fed in these very large circular sea pens that are used. They call that the farm, and Yeah, it's disgusting. It's dangerous. Don't eat it.
Where do you
If you have to eat salmon, look for salmon from, sometimes you can find it at Whole Foods. It's from Alaska. Wild, caught from Alaska, doesn't have mercury and all the problems that you find in
Alaskan
all
salmon.
the other salmon. Even the color of this beautiful salmon color when you go to the sushi place, that's fake. If you saw the color of it, you wouldn't even buy it in the first place. It's gray. It's actually gray. It's that color. It's that color.
Really?
Yeah, because of what they feed it. They feed it garbage.
Wow.
And so people you dress it up in the sushi market. It looks wonderful, but it's all fake. So
for people that don't know, you have one of the most famous and legendary documentaries that have come out in the last couple decades is The Cove, which won an Academy Award, won an ungodly amount of awards.
Won all of them.
Won every single award.
Yeah.
One of the most, famous wildlife documentaries that has ever been known. When they were making that documentary, is it something you were a part of from the start, or did these guys just sort of discover you and decide to make a documentary about you?
Well, there is no these guys. It's like everything else, like this podcast. This is your baby. So there is somebody there who, and that would be Louis Sahoyas. That was his project. And how it started, it was a phone call from San Diego. I was in Coconut Grove. He calls and introduced himself and said, I just saw I didn't make The Cove, by the way. I'm not a filmmaker, but I did make a short film video with Diane Thader, who is what would you call her? She's an artist, a video artist. And she
Cinematographer?
Video artist.
Okay, that works.
I don't know. It's different than what you do in documentaries.
Okay.
They show, I don't, but she did a proper doc. And it's not something you would put on television because it's so graphic. It's really meant for a journalist. If a journalist calls me and says, what's this all about? I can show them. I can't explain it. It's so over the top what happens at the Cove in Taiji. If I had to explain it to you, I wouldn't be able to. Well, you've seen it, so you know.
Yeah, right.
But if I show you something, you might get interested and get involved. So,
there's no words
so
that can do it
we made
justice.
this one, and Louis Sahoyas was in San Diego at a marine mammal conference. I was scheduled as the keynote speaker, and I was going to show my 15-minute film. At the last minute, SeaWorld said, we're scrapping that. O'Barry can't speak. And that piqued Louis' curiosity. Why can't he speak? Because he's speaking about dolphins in captivity. Dolphins being captured at the Cove in Taiji. The capture of the dolphins and the sale of those dolphins is indeed the economic underpinning of the slaughter. It's not about meat. It's about live dolphins for dolphin shows. So Louis said, so he said, "Can I saw that video you made, although SeaWorld wouldn't show it. Somebody showed it to me, and I'm wondering if I can follow you around with my camera." I said, "Well, what is it you're doing?" He said, "We're doing a..."
Oh, that's your phone.
Is that mine?
Yeah,
I should have shut that off.
That's okay. You can answer it if you have to. That's a good question.
It's Lincoln real quick.
Yeah, no worries.
Hello? Yeah. I should...
The city of Miami just terminated the aquarium lease. And they have told the April 22nd to vacate the premises.
Can you repeat that, please? I'm doing the interview right now, and Danny's here in front of me, and he and the photographer can hear.
What's up, Lincoln?
Repeat.
He said the city of Miami-Dade just terminated
Are you rolling?
the aquarium's lease.
Well, that's wonderful.
They terminated the lease for who?
It's Miami Seaquarium.
Miami Seaquarium.
It's over.
The Dolphin Company has
We won.
until April 21st to vacate the premises.
Wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. I'm going to hold you the phone up to the microphone. Repeat that one more time, please.
The Miami-Dade County and the mayor's office just issued a letter of termination for the lease for the Miami Seaquarium for the Dolphin Company. And the Dolphin Company has until April 21st to vacate the premises.
No fucking
What a
way.
beautiful thing. I've been trying to do that since 1970.
Really?
Yeah. Today, it happened on your show live. Okay, Lincoln, thanks. I got to get back to work.
Thanks, Lincoln.
Look at that. Phew.
What are the chances that you just got the news right now? That's amazing. You guys have been trying to do that since the 70s?
Since 1970, when Hugo and the Lolita arrived at the Miami Seaquarium, I quit. I went out in front of the Seaquarium. I was the head trainer.
Get a little bit closer.
I lived there at the Seaquarium in the house that was the flipper set.
Right.
And and when the orcas arrived and I left the Miami Seaquarium, now I'm standing outside the gate. Not allowed inside. Even though I had the keys to the place in my pocket still, because I lived there, right? And I started protesting. And I'm standing out in front of the Seaquarium with the sign, I don't know what it said, cars going by, honk if you're, and nobody would honk, of course. People were going like this, and people were laughing at me. Even people in the animal welfare industry, these big groups, I was trying to get them come and join us. They would laugh at me.
Really?
What are you talking about? Dolphin captivity? That's not an issue. That's not a real issue. And they would laugh at it. Today, it's a mainstream issue. And all those big groups who would not get involved now have sort of taken over this issue and are.
So going back real quick, I want to get to the. I want to jump back to the early days of Flipper and everything after we get finished what we're talking about with the when you first went to San Diego to do the conference and SeaWorld banned you from the conference.
I didn't go to the conference. I wasn't allowed. They were showing the film, and Louis was there. I know I'm not going to be allowed to get into SeaWorld too.
And why was
every gate? If you talk to any SeaWorld trainer, I talked to one yesterday. When you go to buy a ticket, all of those ticket booths have my photograph there. If I show up, they have instructions to call the police. That's not only the SeaWorld, that's Seaquarium, Marineland, all of these places. So I wasn't there, but the film was going to be shown finally, and but it didn't. So Louis said, "Can I go with you and I'll film it?" I said, "Well, what is it you're doing?" "We're doing a television series like the old Jacques Cousteau series. You remember that?"
Yep.
I said, He's asking me that, and I said, "Sure, I remember." Everybody. "Well, we want to feature you in the first episode." I said, "Well, I'm here. Bring the cameras."
You were here, meaning Taiji?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going the next day. I said, "I'll be there tomorrow. I'm going right now."
And how often did you go there
I
leading
would
up
go
to this?
5 or 6 times a year.
When did you start going there?
2003, I believe.
Okay.
And so Louis, he said, "Can I photograph you?" I said, "Sure." He hung up the telephone and went out and took a 3-day crash course on how to make a movie. He never made a movie in his life. So he's telling this story. We're in Paris, he and I and Luc Besson, the French filmmaker. He was the distributor for the Cove. And so the three of us are sitting at this press conference, and Louis is telling this story. He said, so I told Rick, I'll meet him in Taiji, and I hung up the phone and went out and took a 3-day course on how to make a movie. Here's a guy who never made a movie before. His first movie wins Academy Award and every award that, and
Jesus
so
Christ.
I like telling filmmakers. I told my son this story, and I was just in Portugal recently at a film school telling all of the students, trying to encourage them to go out and do what Louis did. Anybody can do it, and everybody should do it. So Lincoln did that, and he went out and made a 3-part television series for Discovery Channel.
Blood Dolphin?
Blood Dolphins. Now he's doing a feature film for Dog Wolf, I think it's called.
Dog Wolf?
Dog Wolf. They do documentaries.
Okay. Oh, it's a company. Okay, got it.
Yeah, in London. They did the documentary that won the Academy Award this year. It's called Navalny.
Navalny. Okay.
Yeah, that's their film.
Right.
It's a profile piece. Now they're doing another profile piece on what we're doing, so that's exciting.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Lincoln could win an Academy Award.
So you guys met up.
This is not in the shot, is it?
No. And you said, I'm going to Taiji the next day. They
Yeah.
said, we'll meet you there.
And so he shows up, got one little camera by himself. And we were in a restaurant. I took him to a restaurant that night, Japanese restaurant, and he leans across the table and he says, so what's this movie about? I thought, God, this is so encouraging. Because I have been doing interviews literally since before Flipper, hundreds of them. And I wrote a couple of books, and my writing partner, it was a journalist for so many years, 30 years. And he told me one time, he said, journalists aren't looking for the truth. They're looking for a story. That stuck with me because that's what I experienced all of these years. I put that together. They're looking for a story.
Right.
And usually they know what that story is before they even interview me. And here's a guy, once in a while you'll get a investigative journalist who has a blank mind, and they're going to document what it is.
Yes.
So that's why I was excited.
Right.
You haven't already made up your mind what this is. Just follow me around. You'll see.
Right.
It is what it is.
Right.
And that's how the Cove was made.
What was the response from the people? Because, I mean, watching that documentary, it is quite literally astonishing how many people are aware of you, who are tailing you every day, getting in your face, trying to intimidate you. Like, it's a very, very high level operation those fishermen have going there, and you are the bane of their existence. I can't imagine the reaction you got after this documentary not only dropped but won an Academy Award. What was the reaction from those guys and from the not just Taiji but Japan?
Anger. They don't want to be exposed like that, and they know that it's all true. So they have to do damage control now and pretend that we're making all this stuff up. And anger is what just made them angrier. That's all that happened.
How long after the film came out and won the Academy Award did you go back to Taiji, or did you go back?
I never actually left. I was there almost all the time.
Wow.
It goes on 6 months a year. When it starts, it doesn't stop for 6 months every day.
Right,
So
from September to March?
Yeah, I'm constantly going back and forth. And I was doing a lot of hiding in those days because they're angry fishermen. And they're not the real threat, though. The real threat is the Yakuza wannabe, the young guy who wants to be. The Yakuza is very involved in fisheries in Japan and these live dolphin sales, and anywhere there's money, the Yakuza is in that neighborhood.
For people listening who don't know, can you explain what the Yakuza is?
The Yakuza is a Japanese mafia. They're everywhere. They're ubiquitous in Japan. They are in government. They run the government. They're everywhere. And so the guy I'm afraid of is the young guy who's had too much to drink, makes a bad decision, and something happens. And that happens in Japan. You know, not so much with guns, with knives. You know, guns are outlawed, but you have to constantly look over your shoulder.
Guns are outlawed there?
I think they're outlawed, banned. You know, you don't find guns like you do here.
Right.
That's a good thing, too. because they get very angry when you expose them like that. It's something you just don't do in Japan. Yeah, Japanese people would never do that to one another. Their culture is very, very different.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't take sides with Westerners. So it's a very, very difficult campaign, and we've been on it since 2003, and we're still on it, and we're not having any results. So we've tried something new: sue the bastards. We've had very good success with suing them. I've been arrested twice on false charges and deported, went to prison. I took them to court and sued them.
Who specifically?
The government.
Oh, the Japanese government.
Yeah. And I won. That's never happened before. When I was in Japan in September, Lincoln and I were there filming. We went to the lawyer's office, this law firm, and he said, congratulations, this is the first case ever in Japanese history where somebody was deported, sued the government, went all the way to the Supreme Court and won. So I'm back whenever I want to go back. That makes them just angrier. So our strategy now is to sue them. Sea Shepherd was there also, another environmental group.
Right.
A couple of other guys got arrested. They also sued using the same law firm, Japanese law firm. They won. So we have a good track record with this law firm. And the Supreme Court, the higher courts, are much more fair than the lower courts. So we're going to keep the lawsuit going. And yeah, that's our new strategy.
Have you ever sat down with one of these fishermen and had a direct face-to-face conversation?
I've had many. I've gone into
like a cordial conversation?
Yeah. And recorded it. I would sometimes record them with a button cam or something like that. And yeah, we've done that. And now what about that? What is it you want to know about that?
What came out of that? What was your sense?
Which one? There's 100. I've been there.
Any of them?
I've been there since 2000.
All of them together.
The thing I've taken away from it is that they admitted they will stop if it's illegal. As long as it's legal, we're going to do this. You kill cows, we kill these. Beef. It looks the same. Put it on a table, cut it up, you can't even tell the difference. So, of course, they're right about that.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Roan. If you're a fan of this podcast, you're already aware that I am one of the most stylish, best-dressed people in the world. Not really, but when I do have to go to a fancy event, a dinner party, or even one of those fancy golf courses that makes you wear slacks and a collared shirt, my go-to is Roan. And it's because they fit the best, they're the most flexible, and they don't shrink or wrinkle. Roan's commuter collection is the most breathable, comfortable, and versatile set of clothing products known to man. Roan has clothing pieces for everyone and for every occasion. Whether you're one of those guys who likes to wear skinny pants on the tee box, or you like to wear a pink polo or a blazer, no matter what it is or what you're doing, they have a clothing piece for you that can be worn individually or mixed and matched with other Roan products. And their signature 4-way stretch fabric is breathable, flexible, and will work anywhere from your commute to the office to the 19th hole. This clothing is high tech. The commuter collection not only features their wrinkle release technology that is 100% machine washable, it's also treated with Gold Fusion anti-odor technology, so you can get more wears between washes and stay fresh all day long. And if you're like me, you probably don't have tons of extra time to go to the mall, try on tons of clothes just to bring them home and have them not fit anymore. And on top of that, all my other clothes are always wrinkled, not with Roan. So if you want to support this podcast, check out Roan today. It's roan.com/Danny, and you can get 20% off your entire order. It's spelled RHONE.com/DANNY for 20% off. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
And it's the way they kill them, the way they're doing this, and other improprieties, illegalities are being recorded. So we live stream. When we're there, we're live streaming everything. We have drones, very small drones, and we're looking for illegalities, and we funnel all of that to the law firm. And our next assault will be a legal one in the courts.
There's so many questions regarding the ethics of what it is, and compare, like in the documentary, they're always coming up with different arguments to back up what they're doing, slaughtering these dolphins. And one of them was it's pest control because they're eating too much fish. Another one was, you know, like what you said earlier, you guys slaughter cows, or there's a guy in people in Australia, they slaughter kangaroos. So why can't we slaughter our own dolphins? And
yeah, they're right too. Excuse me for a minute.
Is there any sort of legal loophole there that you can get around, or that you can sort of lobby for to?
Not ethics, no. Ethics, no, it has to be something.
There's nothing based on like the intelligence of an animal, whether you can kill or not.
Well, you can go to court and fight that for years, and two sides are debating what intelligence is. What is intelligence?
Right.
No, you will never shut it down based on intelligence. They will argue about that. And intelligence, some anthropologists might tell you, is the ability to adapt to your environment and survive. That would make a cockroach more intelligent than us. They could survive a nuclear holocaust.
Right.
So that ain't it. Well, what is it? And so you go down that road. Now, it's got to be something breaking the laws of Japan, very black and white. And and we have a lot of evidence of that, and we're building more. I can't tell you publicly what that is because it's tipping off who are going to watch your broadcast. They monitor me all the time, as does the captivity industry, who should be fighting this battle, not me. That's their industry that they are not policing.
Right.
Or the animal welfare industry, since the captivity industry is not going to do it. That's a multi-billion-dollar industry that could end that dolphin slaughter anytime they want to.
Now, in 2009, I think you said that the industry was responsible for like $2 billion in revenue a year for captive dolphins.
That industry, SeaWorld alone makes $1.5 billion a year.
Still, to this day.
That's just one company. You're not talking about the industry, the Alliance of Marine Parks and Aquariums. It's
all over the world.
It's massive. Yeah, they can end it whenever they want to. They don't want to. They don't want to get involved. They only get involved in things that make money, not negative cash flow, positive cash flow.
But these guys, people like these groups in Taiji, Japan, who are rounding up the dolphin and capturing them and selling them for $100,000 a pop, haven't there been offers that you guys have made to basically subsidize what they're making? Like, hey, we'll figure out a way to reimburse you for all the money you're losing for selling these dolphins. And that would be a fair compromise. And they basically said no.
We've had meetings with the mayor, the city council, the police, the Coast Guard, all of them at a table like this, a huge table in the city hall. My wife, Helena, and I, long before the film The Cove was made and anybody cared about this issue, we were in there asking them if they would agree to take a year off. We'll pay. They had 13 boats that were hunting dolphins. We will pay. I didn't have any money. I couldn't even pay for lunch. But I'm bluffing. Sometimes it works. I'll find the money later. So we told them we'll subsidize the boats. You guys stay up for 1 year and don't hunt any dolphins. Continue doing whatever else you do, but leave the dolphins alone. We'll give you the same amount of money. And that was translated around the room. And then it comes around again. The answer was, it's not about money. It's about pest control. In other words, the dolphins are eating too much fish.
Right.
And so let's kill all the dolphins.
Yeah.
That was the answer. Whether it's true or not, I don't know. It's just one person at that table's 2 cents they're putting in. But they didn't go for the subsidized thing, no.
Yeah, it seems like that's just it's an excuse for something else. Whether it be like that, the fishing has been their lives for so long. It's a lifestyle for them. It's a culture for them. Maybe
no, it's not.
Maybe
it
gives them meaning.
No, it's not cultural. That's one of the. They say that over and over again, and in some warped way, it's become the truth. The truth is, it's never been their culture. Commercial factory whaling has never been their culture. You can see the boats. They still have these antique canoes where the whole tribe would go out and they would hunt one whale and bring it into Taiji, and they would live off that whale for a long time. They never hunted dolphins for dolphin shows. All of that is a lie. Yeah, so they make up. But you have to understand, when I say they, I'm talking about a very small minority of men
in
a very remote village in Taiji. There's 100, audience pay attention, there's 127 million people in Japan who don't harm dolphins.
Right. And they don't even know about this stuff.
No, not really. It's a small island, actually, relative to California. It's the same, about the same size, actually.
As California.
But it's got 127 million people all crammed together living there. And they do it pretty well, actually. But those people don't really eat whale meat anymore. The younger people kind of laugh at it. It's the much older people my age, I'm 84, they would continue eating whale meat because that's what they grew up on during the Second World War. After the war, all of the cattle had been bombed. There wasn't any protein that they were eating. It was General MacArthur who told them, go out and kill whales.
Really?
We, the Americans, gave them the ships they still have to go out and hunt whales because we bombed all the cattle and they were starving. And so they did. There's no need to do that today. There's plenty of, you go into the supermarket in Taiji, Katsura, and these places, plenty of food. They're doing it to sell to dolphin shows, not even about meat. That's the big lie.
Right.
If they had to depend only on the meat, they would have gone out of business.
The meat's just a distraction.
20 years ago or something like that.
Are they still funneling all that meat into the school system?
No, that ended.
That ended.
By exposing it. Sometimes exposing it is, the way to go. So we keep doing that. We keep doing that and try to keep from getting arrested on false charges. And
that was bizarre. Some of the stories about the history of mercury poisoning in Japan, like from the Chizo factory and children being born deaf and blind, and from the pregnant mothers being exposed to this mercury. And I think even in the documentary, you guys like took a hair sample from one of the Japanese guys, and you found out the mercury level in his body was like 200 times the acceptable level or something like that.
Yeah, it's a big problem.
Yeah. You guys are going back there still every year, right?
Yeah, we do. Not as much. We're trying to get our Japanese colleagues to be the face of it and step up.
Not you guys, right?
Yeah, and replace so we can step down. It's really it's up to the Japanese people to do this. Our work is about facilitating that, helping them do that.
How many operations around the world do you think are similar to what's going on in Taiji? With this, like as far as like using those big metal rods to round up the dolphin with the sound wall and then bring them into the cove and slaughter them like that.
Solomon Islands.
In Indonesia.
No, that's in Indonesia? There's a few places that happens.
Isn't the Solomon Islands near Indonesia? Or
No.
No, okay.
No, they're Australia.
Oh, it's Australia.
Yeah, Lincoln's got a place there. And one of our board members, Dr. Sarah Meltzoff, lived with that tribe for many years. Still goes there. That is really traditional. They've been doing that for hundreds of years.
Really?
Yeah.
The same way it's been done in Taiji.
The one in Taiji has only been going on since the 50s. They lie about that when they say it's our tradition, our culture. It is not their culture. It's not their tradition. It is in the Solomon Islands, but not in Taiji. Yeah, hunting whales in a canoe, that is traditional. They don't do that anymore. So they just lie about what they do, cover it up.
So how do you approach the people in Indonesia that have been doing this for a very long time?
In Indonesia, I don't approach them at all. We don't we have our colleagues who are Indonesian deal with that. Westerners going into places and telling people what to do
it's frowned
is
upon.
not a good idea, really.
Yeah, we don't have a good track record.
No. So it's not like we sit at the right-hand side of God and we have the.
Well, we think we do sometimes.
Well, I don't.
Right.
I sympathize with We try to get the Japanese people to take ownership of this.
Right.
That's what it's about.
Right.
It's hard for them to do that because you don't take sides with you don't take sides with Westerners. You don't do that. You don't criticize the government. That's something you just don't do in Japanese culture. If you get arrested, and I was told, I have friends in Japan who I've known for 40, 50 years. That's how long I've been involved in the Japanese thing. And they told me early on, if I get arrested, they are breaking all contact with me. And that's what they do. If you get arrested, even if it's for the right reason, and by the way, I have been arrested many times.
How many?
I couldn't count it, but every time is by my design.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
Except when I was
It
in
was
Japan.
never an accident.
Well, in Japan, it was deliberate. I mean, it wasn't by my design. They arrested me on false charges. I had no control over it.
Oh, really?
Yeah. But I took them to court and won. So they don't do that anymore.
What was the false charge?
Let's see. Well, the first time I was arrested, I had just arrived in Taiji. I was jet lagged. I arrived in Tokyo, got on the train, and by the time you get to Taiji, you're exhausted. And I got to Taiji, got off the train, walked to a restaurant, and it was opening day of the dolphin hunt, September 1st. So a lot of Japanese journalists are there. These journalists are all, we call them the mayor's pet journalists. He brings them in to write the story he wants written. And so they plotted against me.
Propaganda.
Well, they told, they saw me drinking a beer in the restaurant. I had a half a glass of it. I don't really drink, but I had a half a glass. And then I left, got in the car, and I was driving to the hotel, which is like 5 minutes away. Could almost throw a rock to it. A couple of cop cars were parked waiting for me. They pulled me over, gave me a breathalyzer test, and I passed. Now there's dozens of people, and all the photographers, all of the media, Japanese media were there. They're the ones who called the police on me. But it's a very serious crime in Japan, drinking and driving. They do not tolerate it. One strike and you are out.
Oh, wow.
And so I passed the test. I'm fine. And they said, let's see your driver's license. No, my passport. I couldn't find my passport. I said, it's in the hotel. We're parked in the parking lot of the hotel. I said, I'll go up there and get it for you.
Right.
No, you're under arrest for not carrying your passport. And so I went to jail that night, and they found my passport. It was actually in the glove compartment of the car I was in. They had to let me go. That was the first arrest. The second one was I was going through September 1st again, season's just starting. And whenever I go through immigration, as soon as they put my passport in the computer, the red light goes off and the bells and
Every time.
yeah, and people behind me are getting out of line going, okay. And it happens every time. And they take me to the back room, which I'm very familiar with. And I lay down on the bench and usually try to sleep because they tie me up for hours doing this.
They tie you. Oh, yeah. They don't
Not literally tie
Not
me up.
literally.
They want me to miss my baggage and all that stuff.
Right. So you just get comfortable because you're used to it.
Yeah, I usually fall asleep, and they always let me go. This time they did. This time they put me in a cell down in the basement with several other people trying to get in the country.
Wow, a fishing community, a small group of
No,
fish.
this is in Tokyo.
This is in Tokyo, but
Yeah.
still, this all stems from this small fishing village.
Yeah.
It goes so far up the chain.
Yeah. So
So they really care about this in Japan. Like it's up
Yeah,
in the higher levels of the government.
if we can shut this down, they're thinking, this little thing, this little cove, we could probably shut down Willy. Maybe that's what they're thinking. I don't know what they're thinking. For all the same reasons, I don't know what you're thinking, but I assume that's why they're spending so much money and time and energy on making sure that they can continue doing this. And they're winning so far. It takes money to stop it. You cannot, this is a war. This is a full-blown war.
Yeah.
You cannot fight a war without ammunition. But I've been doing that. The Dolphin Project has been doing that since 2003. If I had a fraction of the money that the cost to make the Cove movie, I could end this thing. If
How?
I had a fraction of the money that comes in, you go to the 10 top animal.
How?
Well, go ahead. Sorry.
No. I was going to say, you said fraction of the money. How? Like how? If you
Okay, like what we're doing, we're hiring lawyers.
Right.
We're
Okay.
looking for illegalities, taking out full-page advertisement in educational material in magazines, billboards. There's a lot of things you can do if you have money.
Right.
I never had that. I wasn't working for the Dolphin Project because I had to leave and go get a paying job somewhere. I went to work for Earth Island Institute, environmental group. And I ended up resigning because they were totally ineffective. And like most of these big groups, what they're looking for is issues like this that they can attach themselves to and ask for donations. And those donations, you can see them. If you go to the 10 top groups, animal welfare groups, they have to publish their taxes. We publish ours.
Right.
The biggest one, they have $300 million sitting in a thing called reserve. In other words, they have enough money to do everything they're doing, plus their retirement, but they just have this extra. And there's 10 or 20 groups like this. There's hundreds of millions. They have 300 million in reserve. Why am I there doing this when they could be doing it?
Right.
I don't have the money to fight this war. We didn't even have a budget. I had a credit card from Earth Island. I could buy airplane tickets and food and hotels, but no money to fight the fucking war.
Right.
I resigned. And I know they have it. I can look. You can see their tax records, $30 million or something. So I've become very disgusted and disillusioned with the animal welfare industry and the environmental industry, all these big groups. I realized if we cannot fix that problem, that cove isn't much bigger than the Orange Bowl, than a football field. If we can't fix that, what? And they're working on these big projects to save the world, to save the ocean, If you can't fix that, how are you going to fix the big things? And they can't fix it because they don't even try. So it's very depressing, and it will lead you to a place that you don't want to go. And that's where I have been on this dolphin trail, having to fight this war with no ammunition, realizing ammunition's there. It's kind of like in Gaza. The food is sitting right outside the gate, but they won't let the food in. It's one of those.
Right.
There's money to fix that problem in Taiji. It's not that big. But
Right.
nobody works on it. Nobody does anything about it except sign this petition and send us money. That's the problem. We don't have the money to fight this war. And the people who have it are out looking for other opportunities. They're not actually spending the money on the war. Everybody is missing in action. So I've never said these things. I've stayed away from these podcasts and stuff like that. But I think this will be in Lincoln's movie, The Truth, about what is going on.
Who are the biggest customers for the Japanese fishermen in Taiji? Like what countries, what organizations are still going there?
Atlantis, Atlantis
in Bahamas.
Well, they have one in Dubai that's even bigger than that, and they have when they opened up, they had celebrities flown in from all over the world. Everybody who was, and those dolphins came from Taiji. So what's going on here? I thought we were all against this.
What about SeaWorld?
Or those came from Solomon Islands. Same thing, another drive.
So
what?
So SeaWorld is still purchasing dolphins from the Solomon Islands?
No, they're not coming into the United States anymore. We've stopped that.
None are coming into the United States.
No, they're not. They're having to do with captive breeding. So they have. This is true in Europe also. Most of the captive dolphins are actually.
Thanks, Steve, for giving me a geography lesson. But it's close to Indo. Kind of. Same part of the world.
Yeah, this is Indonesia's largest archipelago of islands in the world. Mm-hmm. And
that's where Lincoln lives now.
Yeah, we have a sanctuary there, and that's the only one in the world.
Yeah, how do you confiscate a dolphin? What is the process of confiscating a dolphin?
In Indonesia, it's very different than it is in America and Europe. In America and Europe, you have in America we have the National Marine Fisheries Service. They're in charge of all things dolphin, whale, and you need their permission to do whatever you're doing. And in Indonesia, it's the Forest Department. The Forest Department is in charge. They literally own all wildlife. So they can march in and take them away if they want to. You can't do that at SeaWorld. That's somebody's property. You'll get sued any more than they can come in here and take your camera away. Mm-hmm. So it's your property. But in Indonesia, it's very different. That's why we're having success over there. The minister is also the minister of fisheries. She's the minister of fisheries and forest department. So we also rescue turtles and monkeys and in between all the other stuff we're doing. Mm-hmm. So when they confiscate something, they give them to us. They call us and ask us to help them, and we have to pay for it. They have no money, no budget.
Right. Now, if there's a dolphin in captivity, how do you reacclimate it or reconnect it back to the environment? Is that process always successful?
No, it's I've written protocol, and I'll send it to you so you can put it on your thing and people can read it. Okay. It's several pages long. We're still writing it after 30 years because we're still learning how to do this. Mm-hmm. This is pioneer work, and we don't have all the answers. And you only learn from your mistakes, not from your successes. So we've learned a lot because we've had mistakes also in the last 40, 50 years. What was your original question? How do you do it?
I was basically asking, does it fail sometime? Like, what happens if you have a dolphin who's been in captivity for 10 years and you rescue it, and you bring it to your sea pen, try to reacclimate it to the wild?
Free Willy is a good example.
Yes,
Keiko. That was a brilliant rescue. They rescued Keiko from a swimming pool in Mexico. This particular animal should never have been put in a subtropical climate like that.
Right.
Same is true with the orcas at SeaWorld and the Miami Seaquarium and these places. These are cold water animals. They don't care about that. They're tropical animals. The Dolphin Research Center down in the Florida captured dolphins in Pine Island, Florida, sent them to Finland where it's freezing cold, and to Canary Islands where it's tropical at least. But sending them to so here was an orca by the name of Keiko in a swimming pool in Mexico, and I was working for Earth Island Institute at the time. They rescued Keiko from the swimming pool, built a tank on the West Coast, and got rid of the papilloma virus that you see on his skin, and then moved him from there to Iceland, where he came from, to a fjord. I think they had about $20 million to work with.
Wow.
Yeah, 21 or $22 million. It's a lot of money for one animal to be released, but
yeah, why so much money? What do you spend $20 million on?
Salaries, six-figure salaries.
Yeah, right, exactly.
So when I was
it's like the homeless problem in LA.
When we do this rescue work, we try to make sure, and I've done this in Guatemala, same thing they did here in Guatemala, Nicaragua, Colombia, Brazil, Haiti, South Korea, and Indonesia. And I always try to keep it down to $30,000, trying to prove it is more cost-effective to rehabilitate them and let them go than to keep them and warehouse them for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. But when you hire these guys from SeaWorld, for example, the last two dolphins they released in Turkey for the Born Free Foundation, that cost almost $1 million for two dolphins.
Jesus.
Sometimes when we do it, it doesn't cost. The first ones we did cost $600 from Mashta Island on Key Biscayne. We flew them to the Bahamas, to exactly 2505 north, 7640 west. And there was a group of dolphins we could see from the Chalk Seaplane, and we landed on the water and let them go there. That cost us $600, not $200 million or not $800,000.
You just landed the seaplane right on a school of dolphins and you let them free right there.
Well, not on the
not on top of them, but
yeah.
I mean like right next to them.
Yeah. But
and does that work? Did the dolphins let them in?
Isn't not immediately, and they may not. So there are some unknowns. They can be accepted. Sometimes they don't want to be. Like Valdemir, there are many dolphins that they call friendlies.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Bubs. Bubs Naturals is a badass company that has collagen, peptides, it has coffee creamer, has coffee, electrolytes, and they are amazing because they are a tribute company to a Navy SEAL and former CIA contractor Glenn Bubs Doherty, who died defending American freedom in Benghazi, Libya. Again, there is obviously no shortage of collagen products available on the internet, but I support Bubs because it is not only a superior product, but they support American veterans by donating 10% of all their proceeds to veteran organizations and 100% of their proceeds on Veterans Day. Bubs collagen peptide packets are easy to use as a daily supplement. I keep them in my truck and I drink them on the way to the gym. It's flavorless, easy to mix nature, makes it easy to mix into anything. I prefer mixing it in coffee. You may not know, but after the age of 25, your natural production of collagen starts to fade, which can severely impact your skin. And an interesting thing about collagen is the more you supplement with it, the more your natural production increases. Since I started using it a few months ago, I've already noticed a huge improvement in my joint connective tissues, my skin elasticity, and the overall quality of my hair, believe it or not. You can support Bubs and this podcast by visiting bubsnaturals.com and using the code DJP at checkout for 20% off your first order. Again, that's bubsnaturals.com and use the promo code DJP at checkout for 20% off. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
They chose to be alone. They're comfortable being alone. I'm kind of like that myself, actually, so I can relate. Yeah, what were we talking about?
Talking about the money it costs to free these animals back into the wild.
Yeah, it depends on who you hire to do it. If you hire a bunch of these SeaWorld people, they'll stretch it out as long as they can and make as much money. So that's what happened. After several years trying to free Willy, the $20 million ran out, and they all left. Where did they go? They went to Panama. Now, you would think the dolphin trainers who worked on the Free Willy project would be so proud of this.
Play that.
And they know now that captivity is wrong. These are all Orca trainers from SeaWorld, right, that have left the industry, and now they've got this project to free Willy under their belt, and you'd think they would be the new guys who take over this captivity issue and run with it. But instead, they ran to Panama. They bought more land than SeaWorld has in Orlando, and they were going to outdo SeaWorld by building a new one in Panama. They applied for a permit to capture, 20 dolphins, something like that. As soon as we heard about it, we went there and organized protests. And these were huge protests. The Panamanians were outraged. You're trying to capture our dolphins, all you guys from Free Willy? And the protests were very successful, and we actually ran them out of town. Where did they go? These trainers from Free Willy.
Yeah.
They went to the Solomon Islands.
Stop
And they're
it.
trafficking dolphins from Solomon Islands to Mexico, to Singapore, to the Philippines, and other places. People don't know these things. They only know what, I start to question about history. I see how history is rewritten all the time. And I start to question what's real and what isn't.
Right. I know what you mean.
So Keiko,
why is her fin bent over?
Finally, it was very obvious at some point if you ever worked with a orca in captivity, and I did. And so did these guys. If you've ever done that, you know that Keiko, at some point after the $20 million was gone and they were gone, that this animal is not a candidate to be released. But since they were all gone, now the money's gone, nobody's on the payroll except HSUS and Earth Island Institute. That's basically two people. Two people are making the decision, and their decision is freedom at all costs, although he's not a candidate. And I was watching this.
It was more about optics.
And he died.
Right.
And we will never know why he died, what kind of shape he was in, because they buried him in a secret location as quickly as possible with no necropsy. When I heard they didn't do a necropsy, the captivity industry, they do that only because they don't want you to know why they died.
Right.
As soon as they did this, I went right to the guy and I asked him, how come you didn't do a necropsy? See, they're spinning the story now, and everybody who donated $20 million is believing a bunch of bullshit. They can spin it any way they want.
Right. Why is the dorsal fin curved over like that?
There are theories. Mine is that it has to do with gravity. In the wild, they will spend 80% of their time underwater where there is no gravity. In captivity, they're always looking for food, looking for a handout.
Right.
And gravity, I believe, has a lot to do with that.
Okay. Yeah, the white stuff all over her skin.
That was the papilloma. That's from being in a cold water animal in Mexico.
God, man.
Come on. Keiko dies. Why did he die? Now, they'll have some prostitute vet come out there and give you some fucking story that's not true. And I get in trouble with all these people because I out them.
What is your what is your theory, or what do you believe about why a couple of those trainers were killed by the orcas, like dragged down and drowned by the orcas? Why do you think that
anger,
happened?
frustration,
Really?
anger, no question about it. One day I got a call from a guy, I forget his name. He was the president of the California Trial Lawyers Association. He's representing a SeaWorld trainer by the name of John Sillick, who was riding on the back of an orca on the surface of the water during a show. He's actually riding backwards. He's facing backwards on them. So he's showing you the video.
Mm-hmm.
Another orca leaps up and deliberately lands right on him, breaking most of the bones in her body, and really...
Oh, my God.
So this guy flew me out to California and showed me this and wanted me to be, well, I was expert.
Oh, there's video of it?
Yeah, that's it right there.
Play that.
You see, he's facing backwards.
Okay, I see.
This is deliberate.
Does that not work, Steve? Oh.
So he needs an eyewitness video who actually trained orcas to say that, because there are millions.
So he could sue SeaWorld.
No, they're going to sue. That's a done deal.
Okay.
How much?
How much? Right.
$100 million or what? This is another lady. Her name was. So anyhow, let me go back to.
They're going to show the video of this guy getting slammed, I think. Oh, wow. Oh, here it comes. He's riding on the dorsal fin, going backwards.
And he deliberately did that. See that?
Oh, my Lord.
So this guy said, will you testify that in court? I said, yeah, I will if you agree to go to court. Because historically, this is not the first time. There are many of these. And they always settle out of court.
Right.
It's kept quiet. And that's why this guy got hurt, because the last lawyer didn't take it to court, didn't make it public, kept it quiet.
Take it to trial. Don't take the settlement.
And he said, I promise you, I'm not taking the settlement. We don't want to see this to happen. And he was lying to me. And
of course he took the settlement.
he settled, and for a lot of money, John Sillick bought a nightclub in San Diego.
This guy did?
Yeah, he survived.
God.
But the next accident, there was another one, Don Bradshaw, after that, because he didn't take it to court.
Right.
And there was a woman that right after, before that, she was in Vancouver, and Orca pulled her in the water and killed her. Kelty Bryn is her name. She would be alive today if that guy didn't lie to me and said, let's go to court. That's what they do, and SeaWorld pays them because they make up. What do they care about?
February 2024 in February 2010, Tillicum killed Don
Bradshaw,
a 40-year-old SeaWorld trainer. Bradshaw was killed following a dine with Shanmu World. The veteran trainer was rubbing Tillicum as part of the post-show routine when the orca grabbed her by her ponytail and pulled her in the water. Whatever happened with Tillicum after that?
Well, that's a lie right there. That you're reading early stuff that
it's Wikipedia.
It turned out that SeaWorld spun it. That's her fault. She should never have the ponytail.
Right.
We tell people don't do it. That's just spin. That's not true.
Right. So what happened with Tillicum after that happened? Did they decommission her?
They put him in isolation in a small tank till he died.
Gosh.
Really tiny little tank. They punished him.
How long did it take him to die?
I don't know. I'd have to go back and research that.
Right. So now, what you were saying earlier is because the U.S. no longer imports whales or dolphins, right, from anywhere around the world. And
no, they can import. They can import them. They can't. I don't have the laws here in front of me. There's lots of different laws, but they can get them if they want them. They can't capture them.
they just do it secretly, probably. Like it's frowned upon, so they just try to keep it out of the limelight.
They have loopholes like breeding loan. It's a breeding loan, like Canary Islands. All of the orcas there. They're actually owned by SeaWorld. They're not owned by Canary Islands. What is it called? Laura Park in the Canary Islands. My wife goes there quite a bit, monitoring those whales, but. They're actually from SeaWorld. They call it a breeding loan, but they never come back. So they get their stock. They get the sperm delivered every month, They masturbate them, take the sperm, and captive breeding. Now, the thing is, these animals, you asked about SeaWorld or the one here, what is it called?
Clearwater Marine? Yeah, the Clearwater
Marine.
The way
the law reads, really, you're not supposed to have dolphins in captivity unless it's an educational experience.
Right.
So that's the loophole. They pretend this is, and it is an educational experience, but it is a negative educational experience. It's a form of bad education. So they just take advantage of the fact that our system, the way it's set up, the lobbyists lead and the politicians follow, and they get whatever they want. They have carte blanche because the system doesn't work. You take the National Marine Fisheries and APHIS, these agencies that are protecting all dolphins are under their care. But who is above them? They're a branch of the Department of Commerce. Look at that word, commerce.
Right.
They don't protect them at all. That's not their job. Their job is to regulate. In other words, if you want to send dolphins to Europe and capture them in Pine Island, Florida, they were rubber stamping them. 98.4% of all permits to capture dolphins and exploit them any way you want to was approved by the Commerce Department.
Right.
And all these agencies work below. The whole thing is about money. And the agencies, the government, how do they profit from it? It's a multi-billion-dollar industry. They pay taxes just like you and me. Where does that money go? It goes to the government.
The reason I learned about you was I think around 2009, 2010, I was working on that Dolphin Tale movie that was filmed at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, and that's where I met Pete Zuccarini, who is the legendary, amazing underwater cinematographer who filmed all the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, and he helped Lincoln film the Blood Dolphin show. He told me all about this story, and Lincoln, I came to understand that. That's when I first discovered the polarization in this world, and there's a lot of people, I think Jack Hanna is one of the people you debated about this on TV a long time ago, that say if you take a place like the Clearwater Marine Aquarium, who has dolphins like Winter, who was caught up in a crab trap and the rope basically mangled her tail, they had to amputate her tail, they kept her alive, is there anything to say about aquariums like that are keeping animals that are injured that need to be rehabilitated who would have died the other way, or if they would have stayed in the wild, they would have died? Yeah.
And what they're telling you about them rescuing that animal and doing whatever they did, they were absolutely correct. That's good work. They do that better than anybody else in the world because these are dolphin traffickers. They know how to transport them and move them around and have the veterinarians and people who are trained in marine mammal husbandry. And whenever I'm debating with them, maybe you've seen some of the debate, they bring that up immediately and say, this is what we do. That's not what they do. That's what they do 5% of the time, and they do it better than anybody. And that's what Clearwater should be, that. A rescue center outdoors where the dolphins can experience the natural rhythms of the sea and the tide and the current, see the sky. All of these elements are very important in the healing process.
Right.
You can't do that inside of a building. The reason they're in the building, and that's what I'm upset about, spending $40 million for another tank and building, instead of revolutionizing the concept, and by the way, that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to abolish that industry. We're trying to revolutionize it, make the 5% the 95%, and forget about the 5%, which is just stupid dolphin tricks.
Yeah, I guess the question is, like, where does all the money go, right? Because they spent all that money to rebuild that aquarium and build those giant. They got rid of those round wastewater tanks, and they built really big tanks for those things. And they, you know, obviously,
they're just show tanks.
They're show tanks, right?
Yeah, for shows.
And obviously, the movie was a huge marketing tool for that aquarium. Really. It drew people from all over the world to come visit Clearwater, to come see that aquarium. And that didn't just benefit the aquarium, that benefited the city of Clearwater. It benefited all the tourism around here, which, you know, a majority of the economy around here is based on tourism.
Yeah.
So, you know, what's to say that's that money can't go towards revolutionizing this and building more awareness towards these dolphins and their intelligence and helping and using that money to rescue more animals, rehabilitate more animals, whether they can be released. Because I don't know. I think they do release some animals that they catch.
They do. They do good
right?
work in that rescue and release, but they'll tell you themselves the ones that they want to keep, they do. Manatees. The manatees they have don't have scars. They're looking for dolphins without scars, and they'll go into their collection because they'll make sure the authorities understand they can't be released. I mean,
so how did the whole Flipper TV series come about? What were you doing? How old were you? Where were you living? And how were you approached to be a part of the Flipper movie, which eventually became a series?
Well, my first
scoot in a little bit. Yeah.
My first encounter with that whole thing, I guess, would be on Christmas Day, 1955. I had just come home from a 14-day leave from the Navy. I just gotten through boot camp. And when you get out of Navy boot camp, before you get shipped out to sea, you have a 14-day leave. So I was home on that 14-day leave. Miami Seaquarium just opened. I went there with my family. I'm in uniform. I'm standing there in front of this big glass window looking into this 500,000-gallon tank. And by the way, this was the third dolphinarium in the world at this point in 1955. It was not a multi-billion-dollar industry. It's only the third one in the world. First one opened in St. Augustine, 1938. And then in Los Angeles, Palos Verdes, California, it opened up in 1954 or something like that. So this one just opened. And I stood there at the window, the glass window, looking in, and it was just blew me away. There were sharks, there were 500-pound grouper, turtles the size of this table, slithering along the bottom. There'd be big giant sawfish slithering around, moray eels. And now here comes a guy walking across the tank, just jumping over the rocks and stuff. He's got a canvas suit on, spun copper Miller-done helmet, and air flowing out of the helmet to the surface, and I can see that light coming through the water, and there's a hose going up to the surface, and the dolphins and everything is surrounding this guy who's passing out fish to everybody. And I thought, man, when I get out of the Navy, I'm going to come back here and get that guy's job. 5 years later, I did. That's how I started.
Wow.
I applied for a job as a diver. I graduated from Divers Training Academy, the first-class deep-sea diver. And I've been diving all over the Mediterranean, Caribbean.
What were you doing in the Navy? Like, what kind of missions were you on, or what kind of?
I was on an anti-submarine hunter-killer group for the last 2 years on a destroyer in the Mediterranean, And we'd go to Gitmo Bay for a gunnery practice every year. We'd go to North Sea, play war games with submarines. We'd be anchored in Monaco, for example. We'd have 3 submarines, and we'd all swing on the same anchor. I wanted to continue diving. So when I got out of the Navy, I went to work for Arthur McKee, who was a treasure diver. He was the world's foremost treasure diver, a family friend. I did that for a couple of years, and it was the hardest work I ever did in my life. And I never found the gold bars that I fantasized. I was about to get married, or I thought I was going to, and I told Captain McKee, I've got to get a real job. He took me to the Seaquarium to his friend, Captain Bill Gray, who was in charge of everything. He's the guy who started this whole industry, actually. He hired me on the spot. And I'm doing that job that I explained to you, the feeding the fish and you get promoted as you spend your time there. I was promoted to doing the top deck show. I wasn't actually a dolphin trainer, but my pay grade and my job description was dolphin trainer, although I never trained a dolphin. Anybody could actually step out there at showtime. The dolphins know 3 times a day they're doing this routine, and you could put a mannequin out there passing out fish, and they would do so it looked like I was a dolphin trainer, but I really had never trained a dolphin. I went there to be a diver. That's what I wanted to do. By the way, my first day on the job, I was assigned the diving job on the capture boat. And we were capturing dolphins at that time every day for, I don't know, a few months, for the World's Fair in New York, for new dolphinariums that were opening up in Europe. We were selling them. I remember loading a dolphin. You could buy a dolphin from the boat, from the Seaquarium boat, for $300 or $350 if you wanted a particular sex, size and sex, they called it. If you wanted a female 6 feet long, that was $350. $300 for just
in the 50s.
And I remember loading a dolphin into the station wagon of a guy who drove here to St. Pete Beach to give it to his girlfriend for her birthday. There were no laws protecting dolphins. And finally, there was a 1972 Marine Mammal Protection Act, which they could have called Marine Mammal Park Protection Act, because that's who they protect, the corporations, not the animals. But
wow, that reminds me. I don't know if you're aware of it. There used to be a bar, a little shitty dive bar, literally like 2 miles from here, that's been shut down for probably 10 years now. It was called the Porpoise Pub. It was a bar, and in the middle of the bar, like it was a big circular bar, and in the middle there was a big round fish tank, and they had dolphins in there. People would go and buy shots and drink beers and watch the dolphins swim around in this little tank.
I may have captured those dolphins. You could buy them then for $350 But to answer your question, that's how I started. And then the Flipper movie was made, the very first movie with Chuck Connors and Luke Halpin. And it was very, very successful. Some scenes were shot at the Seaquarium with sharks, and I was involved in shark wrangling and all of that for that first movie. Then they came back and made a deal with the Seaquarium to do a TV series. They had the green light to do a series. It's going to start off with a pilot feature first called Flipper's New Adventure. The deal was the Seaquarium would supply the dolphins and a trainer. And we're going to be training underwater. It's never been done before. Historically, dolphins are trained topside. You come in, buy a ticket, you sit down, and they're doing tricks on the surface of the water. So this was all new. I was chosen as that diver, trainer. I was a trainer. I was making $85 a week as a diver, and when I got promoted to trainer, I was making 95. And then Flipper came along, and in a short period of time, I'm the highest paid animal trainer in the world. I'm buying a new Porsche every year. And Rico, the director, would say, don't buy anything you can't pay for in 13 weeks. He had been down this road before, you know. So the Seaquarium had to supply a dolphin and 5 dolphins, actually. And we decided on females. They decided on females. I wasn't really in the decision-making role at that point. We'll get 5, they decided, because we don't know what we're doing. This has never been done before. We don't know how many we're going to need.
And you capture them in Biscayne Bay?
I had already captured them in Biscayne Bay when I was on the boat. So they were already on the grounds in holding tanks somewhere on the grounds.
Okay.
We didn't have to go get them. We had them ready for whoever wanted to buy them. Or in this case, they were given to them. So that was the deal. They were going to, I'm just thinking back here. Mm-hmm. What's your original question? Am I drifting too far?
No. We're just going like through the linear story of how the Flipper show came about.
Okay, so I was. There was a guy when I was doing the show. I'm remembering these things, so I'm not giving you the chronology exactly, but. When I was doing the show and I was promoted to trainer, and I'm all over the grounds, you know, walking around, and there was one guy working with a dolphin back then. That was Rico Browning, and I would go help him. Rico was the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Right.
The guy who directed most of the underwater for Sea Hunt, Malibu Run, the Aquanauts, all those 50s black and white shows.
Right.
And he became my best friend. He was a diver, stuntman, took me under his wing, and he was my mentor. He wanted to be a director. At that point, he was just putting this show together. He was the creator of Flipper. He had written a book, he and his brother-in-law, Jack Houghton, called Flipper, and he told me it was on his refrigerator for about 10 years. He finally gave it to Ivan Torres, who said, "Yeah, let's do this." And they did. It was a huge success all over the world.
This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Verso. Have you ever tried fasting or intermittent fasting? If so, you may be aware of the sizzling energy and mental clarity that you get if you do it long enough. The scientific data validating the health benefits from fasting for weight loss is overwhelming. But what doesn't get talked about enough is the longevity benefits you get from fasting. When you fast, your body turns on all its defense mechanisms to help your body hunker down to fight off illness and disease. But the problem is it takes 3 days of starving yourself to activate this process. Scientists like David Sinclair have recently discovered molecules to help your body turn on this process without having to fast. If you've ever heard this podcast before, you've heard me talk about Verso many times, and I've had world-renowned nutritional scientists like Dominic D'Agostino on the show, who is the guy who actually introduced me to Verso, and I've been taking it every day for the last 3 years. Cell Being is always the first thing I take in the morning after dragging my carcass into the kitchen, which wakes me up and gives me energy. I even use it for pre-workout. And Clean Being is the product I use every night before bed. After taking Clean Being for some time now, I have actually noticed a huge improvement in not only my hormone regulation, but my vision has improved. I know it sounds insane, but this stuff actually can improve your vision. My lipid regulation has gotten better. And another huge thing is all of a sudden, I don't get affected by all the pollen in the air. I don't have any of these reactions. And Clean Being has actually been scientifically proven to alleviate these things. Other clinical trials have proven healthier skin, less inflammation, healthier hair, lipid regulation, enhanced cognitive function, and improved metabolism. On top of that, Verso always publishes third-party testing on each batch produced to guarantee you're getting exactly what you pay for. So if you want to check out Verso and support this podcast at the same time, go to ver.so/Danny and use the coupon code Danny at checkout for 15% off your first order. Again, it's ver.so/DANNY and use the code Danny at checkout. It's linked below. Now back to the show.
So I found myself living with these flipper dolphins 7 days a week, 24 hours a day for seven years or something like that. And when you do that, it's very different than the job I had before, where you go in the morning, you do 3 shows, you've got the weekends off, and it's like an 8 to 5 job for most dolphin trainers. They don't really live with the dolphins. If they did, they would probably be doing what I'm doing, because that's when you really get to know them, when you're living with them like that.
How so?
It's like, do you have any pets at home?
I have a dog. I've had a dog for the last 14 years. He actually just died 2 days ago.
Okay.
It's right there.
What's the dog's name?
My friend Julian got me this cool little crystal. Julian Dory, shout out to him. He got me this 3D crystal of my dog.
Oh, wow. It looks like a fox.
Teacup Yorkie. Yeah, he looks like a little fox.
Yorkie.
His name's Dunk.
So if you were to, his name is Dunk?
Dunk.
If you had interacted with Dunk a few times a day, 5 days a week or something, it's not the same relationship when you're living with him. You can anticipate when he gets up and walks across the room what he's going to do after 14, right?
Right.
That's what I'm talking about. I don't know how to express that, but you get to know them like that.
Okay.
Whereas dolphin trainers never really get to. They have a utilitarian relationship with the animals.
Right.
They don't really get to know them.
Right.
So that's I don't know where to go from there. That's where it all began.
So you lived literally right next to the lake where they filmed, right? Like you lived in the house.
That was my house. I also had a house trailer near it. So there is a fenced-in area there. Mm-hmm. Public's not allowed. Employees don't even. I would lock it. I was back there with Miss B and the dolphins for years. I became very reclusive. I'm still very reclusive. It was during a time when there was a lot of turmoil. The Vietnam War was raging.
Right.
America was divided, not as much as we are today, but divided because of that war. Protesting going on all over the place. Mm-hmm. I became one of those people who started doing a lot of soul searching back there and questioning what I'm doing. It was a very strange duality I was living. My work, my job, and my life. But what I'm doing there is trying to get the trust. I'm trying to get their trust. And I accomplish that, of course. If you spend I sleep on the dock with them. I mean, I call it dolphin time. And
did you have any was there a special way you could communicate with the dolphins?
It's all in silence. It's all in silence. And at that time, I was actually being silent I was studying it with an Indian guru who was silent for, I think, 26 years. And I was doing this. I was living in a world of silence with them. A lot of the time, I had to interact. I didn't have to interact with anybody. I would drive my Porsche to the back and lock the gate, and they would stay away from me. The trucks would come to film once in a blue moon. After the first couple of years, they had so much stock footage, they left me alone. I was there alone all this time.
Right.
With my surfboard, my little boat, the dolphins, and my friends. I was living in Coconut Grove, and it was during a time when Coconut Grove was an art colony, and some of the John Sebastian, who you just saw, remember a band called The Love and Spoonful? Mm-mm. You don't remember that one? God, I'm getting old.
Yeah, that's one I've never heard
Everybody in the
of.
world knew.
Before my time, Rick.
Do you believe in man?
Oh, of course,
That's
yes.
John.
Okay.
When you see the poster for Woodstock, there's a guy, you see the audience, you see a guy wearing tie-dye clothes. That's John.
Oh, okay.
So him and all his friends, Fred Neal, who wrote Everybody's Talking, Midnight Cowboy, won the Academy Award. Mm-hmm. He was my best friend, actually. He and I started doing musical experiments back there because nobody was there, and we could do this. Communication. Okay, that's a language, too. and we're back there, go with our guitars, and sometimes Cass Elliot would come. You remember them, the Mamas and Papas?
You'd have to sing a song for me. I don't remember by the name, but I probably heard their music.
Oh, you have California Dreamin'?
Oh, of course, yes.
Yeah, so sometimes Cass and Denny were there. Crosby was always there. David Crosby, Stephen Stills actually put the first money into it. Joni Mitchell. Joni and Crosby lived in the garage next door to me. I lived in one house, they were there. John lived in another one. Tennessee Williams lived at the end of the street. So all these celebrities started coming out at night, and we're doing Timothy Leary, Jack Elliott.
Timothy Leary?
Timothy Leary.
So you guys taking LSD?
Sorry?
You guys were taking LSD?
No, well, no, I wouldn't. Well, are you asking me if Timothy Leary was taking LSD?
I'm saying, were you guys all taking LSD and hanging out and making music with the Dolphins?
No, and I'm trying to be real careful not to create that image in your mind. In those days, I did myself. I never gave it to the Dolphins, but I did experiment with it. Mm-hmm. It was perfectly legal at the time. Even if it wasn't, I still would have experimented. But I want to give you an idea of what the rest of the world was thinking about LSD. They weren't thinking about it. Nobody even knew what it was.
No one cared.
But Tim came to Coconut Grove once when he had a cardboard box full of LSD 25, he called it, from the Sandoz laboratory in Switzerland.
Really?
Perfectly legal. Nobody knew what this was. It was just a new thing, right? And John Lilly, do you know who he is?
Oh, of course.
Yeah, so John he lived across the street from me.
No way.
Yeah. Lincoln just filmed all of this. I'm explaining it to you in Coconut Grove. So
pull up John Lilly's bio on there.
So John, let me see. So yeah, to answer your question, no, nobody. Yeah, there's John right there.
Yeah, he invented. Yeah, he's the guy who invented the isolation tank, the sensory deprivation tank.
Yeah. Oh. And I used that one in his house in Malibu. He was living in Malibu. When I stayed there, I would stay in that room that had the isolation tank.
And he was obsessed with communicating with dolphins.
That's obsessed. He had a grant from NASA to try to communicate with a non-human intelligence because they were going to the moon. They were sure at some point we're going to run into some non-human intelligence and we need a code to communicate. John got a grant from them. I probably captured those dolphins as well because we were selling them to whoever at the SeaWorld. He was in Coconut Grove in the old bank building. The early bank building had 3 or 4 of these portable swimming pools you see in people's backyards. They were inside the bank. The bank had been closed for years. And he had dolphins in there. And yeah, he was trying to, no, not with the music. He was taking their skull cap off and putting wires into their brains and doing all of this kind of very, very intrusive, and most of them were dying. At that point, when he was doing that, nobody knew that dolphins were automatic, they were not automatic air breathers like us. If you give me a sedative, I will go to sleep. I'll keep breathing. If you do that with the dolphin, they die. Every breath is a conscious effort.
How do they sleep?
They don't. Like we do. They rest. They switch different hemispheres of the brain back and forth and rest. But they don't sleep. Every breath is a conscious effort.
They're never fully unconscious.
No, not really. I don't believe so. Nobody would be able to know that, but I don't think I think they're always awake.
Whoa.
So he had written 2 or 3 books that I was reading back there. And I was taking sides with him. He was saying dolphins are more intelligent than humans. It shocked the scientific community for a brain surgeon to be saying this.
In what way were they more intelligent?
Well, that's the thing. He's saying they're more intelligent because, well, first of all, just evolution. they have been here 65 million years. Let's just say as a graph, it's the size of this table in length. This is 65 million years. Mm-hmm. We have been here about on the 2-inch line.
Right.
So if you assume,
a blip on the timeline.
If you assume that the brain is more than excess baggage we're carrying on this trip through time and space, the porch light is on and somebody is home, and that's not only dolphins. Look at the sperm whale. And 1/3 of its body is its head. It's the largest brain on the planet.
How big is a sperm whale's brain?
It's
on average. Do you know like the weight or the dimensions of it? Like
the size of this table.
Wow.
Well, you can see that. This
There's a good picture.
Body,
yeah, it's a third of his body. Yeah.
It's like the first time I read Charles Darwin. It was a voyage of the Beagle. He had gone from England to the Galapagos Islands, and he wrote, "It creates a sense of wonder that so much beauty was so evidently created for so little purpose." It's kind of like that with this brain. Why does this? How did this evolve after 65 million years for so little purpose?
Right.
It has a purpose. We just don't know what it is.
It can't manipulate its environment like we can.
Going back to your question, what makes them more intelligent?
Yeah.
This is what John was, his hypothesis. All of the senses are better. So I started reading as much as I could and exploring, and I'm back there living with them, and I started to...
Go up a little bit. What is that giant yellow thing in the front of his face?
Maybe some sensory organ.
Is that a sensory organ? Yeah. That big yellow thing?
Sperm whales have the largest brain of all living organisms. Holy crap.
That's wild. Well, dolphin brains are like the same size, if not bigger than ours. Just regular dolphins. They're bigger than ours, right?
Eighth bigger, yeah. So these are the things, and I'm starting to believe this, and at the same time, I'm being paid by the Seaquarium. I'm part of this fucking circus going on, and I started rebelling against it. But now my friends are coming out.
Turn that thing a little bit towards you.
At night, and we're doing music and trying to experiment with it, and it looked pretty weird to the Seaquarium because there were no long-haired people at those days, except my friends coming in at night. And, so...
Yeah, it's interesting that these animals have been around for so long, 65 million years, and we've only been here for a couple 100,000 years, but we are so intelligent. I mean, maybe they're more intelligent, but it's really close. And there's a lot. Are you aware of the stoned ape hypothesis? How like there's multiple different theories on how our brains evolved, right? Because there's
the aquatic ape.
There's nothing like us on Earth. There's a massive gap between us and the next primate. Right? It's like why is there such a big gap, the evolutionary gap between us? You know what I mean? And how did we come up? How did we just pop up out of nowhere? This intelligent animal that can manipulate its environment and build all these crazy things and create artificial intelligence.
Well, have you been watching Ancient Aliens?
I have not watched Ancient Aliens.
You have to watch that. Everybody has to watch that because they're actually showing you the answer to your question.
They talk about, well, I know there's like a bunch of ideas, and one of them is panspermia too. How there's rocks that come from other solar systems, and they hit our Earth. They hit the Earth, and they contain microorganisms from other galaxies or whatever, and that could have somehow fueled our evolution or like changed something within us and made us pop
That's where
up
we
out of
came
nowhere.
from.
Right.
That's what their hypothesis is.
Yes.
No, they're saying this. We are actually an experiment.
Yes, that's one of the ideas. And the other one is a monkey ate a mushroom, and then our brains jumped 10 times the size.
Yeah. So who knows? But dolphins.
So John Lilly, his experiment, cutting the skull caps off the dolphins and putting electrodes in their brains. What did he say the results of those experiments were? Did he?
He got off track. He got off track with drugs. Last time I saw John, I was staying at his house in Malibu. He was so far I don't want to say gone. Maybe he's the only one but he's communicating with aliens at this point.
Oh, really?
It's not about do they exist. He's actually in touch with them.
Oh, that's what he said to you.
He doesn't say it to me. He's just doing it. He just does it. I couldn't understand him. When I first met him in Coconut Grove, and he came out to the SeaWorld, he was very straight. I'll use that word. A white doctor coat with a tie, short haircut, and scientist. After Tim Leary left, he was a different person altogether. Now he's freeing the dolphins from the Coconut Grove Bank and putting them in Biscayne Bay, letting them go. The last dolphin he had, two of them. Their names are Joe and Rosie, named after Joseph E. Levine and his wife Rosalie, who made the movie Day of the Dolphin. He made a lot of movies, Joseph E. Levine. But John agreed that when they were captured, when he's through doing his human-dolphin communications work, he would set them free. And they were stuck at the Dolphin Research Center down in the Florida Keys for about 4 or 5 years. The promise just went undone. And a group of people got together. They hired me. We moved the dolphins by helicopter. Lincoln was with us. He was about 3 feet tall. Flew up to Georgia to the National Geographic documented this in a, I think it was the very first Explorer series. Mm-hmm. But we rehabilitated the dolphins and set them free.
Wow.
And that's the last he did with dolphins before he died.
Have you ever, there's this, we were just talking about this on a podcast the other day. There is a new artificial intelligence company, or it's an organization that's developing, it's called Interspecies IO, and they're using artificial intelligence to communicate with dolphins. And to other species. So what they're doing is they're using artificial intelligence to record, like you record the sounds that these animals make, and it's supposed to be able to decipher it so we can understand what they're saying. So essentially using AI to communicate with animals and understand and possibly communicate back with them. It's bizarre. Yeah, this is it right here. It's a think tank, an artificial intelligence think tank. And it goes back to what John Lilly was doing. You know, it's all about understanding non-human intelligence. Anyway, so you guys were spending time trying to, you were playing music, you were communicating with the animals, you were spending a lot of time with the animals, and this sort of catapulted this sort of like sent you for a loop, and it changed you and made you. At what point was it during Flipper, or what? Maybe it was after Flipper that you.
No, it was before.
It was before it ended.
Long before, like the second year. I knew. I mean, it's real obvious. Dolphins do not belong in captivity. It's very black and white when you're living with them like this. But I didn't do anything about it.
Was it the death of Kathy?
That was it. Yeah. So it was an act of passion. That forced that there was an automatic, organic reaction to her suicide. You mentioned earlier they are self-aware.
Yes.
That every breath is a conscious effort. And that's what she died from. Self-induced asphyxiation. Not every breath they take is a conscious effort.
Right.
Right? If you don't take the next breath, you're going to, that's self-induced asphyxiation. And that's what I witnessed. And I have seen that over and over again at the Cove in Taiji, where they're driven in. If you don't know how to read their body language, you wouldn't see what I see. When I go to a place where dolphins are, I don't see the same thing. I see what's really going on. And I see dolphins being driven in. Visually, you're only seeing them on the surface, but I've spent so much time with them underwater. I know what's going on underwater when they're being driven in. When they're being driven into the cove, the boats are banging on these poles, and they're panicking. I'm imagining all this, but I know what's going on. The old are left behind because they can't keep up. There are pregnant females who are aborting. They're panic-stricken. And so I experience all this with them. And they're driven into the cove. It's sealed. And a lot of them, I'm watching them on the surface. They take that last breath, young ones, and the mother, you can watch them getting together, and they sink, and they don't come back up again. That's what I'm talking about, because nobody can see that but me. That is self-induced asphyxiation. They're committing suicide. So it's not uncommon. With life becomes that unbearable. If I were anatomically equipped like they are, I probably would have done the same thing in that Japanese prison and a few other places I've been, just not taking that next breath.
Are there also in the Cove documentary, you mentioned there's another town in Japan that no longer has any dolphins there?
That would be Ito, yeah.
Iki or Ito or something?
Iki Island, excuse me.
Iki Island.
Iki Island, yeah.
Because there's two types of dolphins, right? It's the same with orcas. I had this guy Forrest Galante on the show a couple months ago, and he was explaining to me how there's transient orcas that basically like they just roam, they don't stop, and they eat anything. They have their diet is very. They have a wide palate, right? And then there's other ones that kind of like stay centralized into one specific area. Is that the case in Iki Island? Were they just like one localized group of dolphins that they were all killed? Now there's none there?
Yeah.
And they were doing the same thing they were doing in Taiji?
No, in Taiji, those are all transient.
Those ones are all transient, but they were doing the same slaughter in Iki Island.
Yeah, same thing. And now they are very upset because they can't sell the dolphins for... they were selling the meat, and that you can buy the size of this, like the size of a soap.
Bar soap.
Probably $5. Selling that dolphin alive to Dubai, a couple $100,000 probably. So it's really about live dolphin shows.
Right.
That's one of the problems with these dolphin shows is the copycat syndrome when people come through SeaWorld or wherever, Clearwater, and they watch these dolphin shows. They go, oh, wow, I could. And people swimming with them, you can charge $100.
Right.
What? Dolphins will heal us. We can charge them $8,000. And they do. These places charge $8,000, $10,000. Insurance companies pay for it, and it's all fake. It's all phony. Dolphins cannot heal us. They can't heal themselves. The dolphins that we have in sanctuary in Bali all came from dolphins, what are they called? Assisted therapy. And these are all Russian tourists who are coming to Bali to be healed by the dolphins. And my heart goes out to that poor mother. I still get calls from Germany, a lot from Germany, Switzerland. My child's got autism. I was calling you. I hope it's okay to call you at home. I'm going to take my daughter to the Dolphin Research Center. They have a program there. What do you think about that? I'm going, oh, fuck. This woman's being ripped off. False hope. Dolphin can't heal her.
Where
the Alliance of Marine Parks, they know about all this, and they allow it. This fraud and this, because Disney does it, and, all of these dolphin swim programs, Dolphin Research Center, Dolphins Plus.
Who came up with the idea that dolphins can heal us?
When I worked at the SeaQuarium, people would pay $5. They buy a ticket, they would sit in their seat, and I would put on a show for them. They were playing basketball, and they're jumping and blah, blah, blah. And they would applaud, and they would leave. Some accountant probably in the front office went, wait a minute, let's let them in the water with the dolphins. We can charge $100 instead of $5. $5. It's now $20 or whatever. And so that became this swim with dolphins craze. Then let's tell them they can heal us, autistic children. And, you got people like Dave, I don't know, he's a psychologist, one of those guys calls himself doctor. He's got a degree in psychology. And he started this craze with dolphin-assisted therapy.
Does he own dolphins?
No. He came to this aquarium first. He came over to my house. He wanted me to be partners with him. And I listened to him, and I could tell he's just exploiting him. He just wants money.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't talk to him anymore. And he just sort of labeled me as being antisocial because I had never come to the meetings to discuss, this is what they're doing, this dolphin-assisted therapy. It's fraud, full-blown fraud. But he's retired now.
These people are looking at it. These people are looking at dolphins like a real estate investor looks at an old dilapidated apartment building. They see, they can fill up X amount of units and get X amount of rent every single month, and it has a lifespan. That's exactly how they're looking at it.
You're just paying for your kid's happiness.
This kid's autistic here.
Yeah.
I can tell that's what they're doing here. Now the kid is actually getting something out of it. No, let me show you something.
Okay, what's the
This is the first trick, or they call it a behavior. It's called targeting.
Targeting.
This is targeting. This is targeting.
What?
This is targeting. What happens is the first thing you train a dolphin to do is to touch your hand.
Oh, okay.
Target. Touch it. Blow the whistle. That's the bridge. That means, yeah, you did it right. I'm going to give you a fish. If you don't touch my hand, you're not going to get a fish. They catch on real quick. Okay, bam. Now you can replace that. Once they get that down, might take a few months, might take a week, might take a year. Depends on how long it takes you as the trainer to get the idea across. They're ready immediately. They're smarter than we are. That's targeting right here.
Right.
Okay, you can replace that now with your foot.
Okay.
Okay, they got that. Now when you see the show and you see the trainer being pushed through the water, it's the same targeting trick.
With the foot.
With the foot. Now you could take something this size, like a cone, like a glass that goes on the dolphin's snout. These are dolphins of war in the Navy program for the swimmer nullification system. At the end of this device, you know what a bang stick is underwater?
Yeah.
Shark stick?
Yeah.
So
it's like a spear. It's a spearhead tip with like a shotgun shell at the end of it,
Yeah. So this thing is equipped with the swimmer nullification system that you put on their snout, and they'll go over and simply target the target diver in their training. Dolphin has no idea there's a .45 caliber bullet in there. And they wouldn't put that bullet in unless it was a combat situation. But they're trained every day without the bullet. The bullet's been replaced actually with I think it's a shotgun shell now. I actually blew my thumb off with one of them.
What?
And so,
how did that happen?
We were working on a movie called I was doing a lot of stunt work in those days.
Yeah.
Thunderball. Well, it wasn't Thunderball. We did Thunderball, but there was another one like Thunderball called Never Say Never Again. James Bond movie. And it was like we were just starting. I think it was the second day we were there. And the diving barge was in Lightford Key and maybe a mile out. And we have a sea pen in Nassau we used to film Flipper. That's where the dolphins were. So 7 o'clock in the morning, Luke Halpin, the kid who was starring in the Flipper show, he's now a grown 40 years old or whatever it was. He's one of the stunt. He and I were in the Boston Whaler, 13-foot Boston Whaler. We go over to pick up one of the sharks, 13-foot shark, much bigger than this table, and bring it out to where we're going to film it. And I loaded the bank stick with a 12 gauge shotgun shell. Put the safety in, and then a swell came and lifted the boat up like this. And I lost my balance, and I went to grab the gunwale of the boat, and I grabbed the bank stick, and it went. Fucked up my whole day.
Blew your thumb off.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not a good day.
So I went out to the barge. I wrapped my hand in a towel, got out to the barge. Rico was there, and he didn't know what happened, but he could see the blood and stuff. And yeah, it was one of those.
Yep.
And these are outlawed now because I got those taken off the market. These things will fly right out. That's the safety. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work.
I had them taken off the market.
You had them taken off the
Yeah.
market? How'd you do that?
I sued them. Decor Dive Company. I sued them, took them to court. And,
Oh my God.
Yeah, it just pops right out. See, that's the only thing that's separating the firing pin from the shell is this pin right here.
Oh, okay.
And it, because this is like a spring, it just pops out. And that's what happened. It popped out, kaboom. We jump into a car and I told before I passed out, I said, do not take me to Princess Margaret Hospital because I've been in there before. And they would have just amputated it away up here somewhere. You know? Get me to Miami.
Right.
So there was a plane landing, a little Piper Cub or something, and we just ran out to the thing, and the guy was getting out of the back seat, and I just got him out of the way. I got in the back seat, and I passed out. I wake up. We're in Miami. I'm in Mercy Hospital in Miami, waiting for the doctor. Still in my wetsuit, full of blood. Got the towel around and I'm looking in it's not a mirror, it's a stainless steel towel rack, and I could see my face. And the thumb that was missing was all over my face.
Oh my gosh.
That's when I really got scared because it told me that shotgun shell was so close to me, it could have blown my head off, you know?
Wow, man. That's fucking terrifying, man.
Yeah, it was. And it put me out of work for a couple of years because I had I was trying to do push-ups. I was trying to become left-handed. I was doing push-ups and stuff like that, and I pinched the nerve in my neck. Anyhow, I hadn't worked in a long time. Finally, I get a call to go do a job here in St. Pete Beach at the Don Cesar Hotel.
What kind of job?
It's a job in a Barry Gibb music video. And I have to rappel from the top of the building in a tuxedo with a rose between my teeth. So I go to Miami Beach, and I'm talking to these guys, you know, they're interviewing me. He said, have you ever done this before? I said, what, mean rappel? Yeah. I was rappelling out of helicopters in rice paddies while people are shooting at me. You got the job. I went home, and I called my buddy Hank, who actually was in Vietnam and was rappelling out of I had never done it before. But I knew I could. You know.
Of course.
So we had a two-story house. We got up on the roof, and he showed me how to do it like in 10 minutes or something. Next day, Lincoln and I get in the car. Lincoln's only like third grade or something. And we go over to the Don Cesar Hotel. I've never been here before. And they take me up to the penthouse. There's two penthouses. Here's your room. The room next to me had a sign on the door that said, do not disturb, underscored 3 times with exclamation points. I figured that's probably Barry's room.
Whose?
Barry Gibb.
Oh, Barry. Yeah, right.
It's his movie.
You're right next to him. Oh, my
I never
gosh.
saw him, though. So next morning, I go down to do the job, and I was scared shitless. And so I look over the edge. I can see Lincoln down in the pool. Is like the size of an ant with Barry Gibb's kids. They're all playing in the pool. And so I did it 3 or 4 times. And the guy didn't like it. It's the only time I have ever been fired. I wasn't fired. He just didn't like it. The director. I said, okay. And he didn't want to pay me. I went back up and I knocked on that sign. It said, "Do not disturb." And Barry opens the door and lets me in. And I explained what happened. He was very cordial, very nice about it. Had somebody come up, paid me off in $100 bills. Off I went. I'll show you. I have that video. So whenever I'm here in St. Pete Beach, where I now live, and I have meetings with people that come over and do interviews and stuff, I always have them meet me there so I can show them the video.
At the dawn.
Yeah.
That's great.
Leilani Muser, her husband, came down for a visit once, and I was telling him this story. And we're at the pool at the Don Cesar having lunch. And she said, "What's the name of it?" I said, "I don't know. I never saw it before. I've never seen it." It was like 20 years earlier, you know. Somehow she found it. It's called Night is for Lovers or something like that.
Uh-huh.
And it's a music video. I didn't understand it, but why am I telling you about this?
I don't know. It's funny. It's interesting, man. It's entertaining. You were saying before we started that you still have people from SeaWorld who spy on you.
Oh, yeah, of course. Why wouldn't they? They want to know what I'm doing. People come in my office.
They make it obvious?
If I watch them, yeah, they make it real obvious. Steve McCulloch was one of them. I'll give you an example. He came into my office. Do you know who he is?
No.
He was one of the dolphin wranglers. Anyhow, oh yeah, I want to help. So he went and bought his own camera, video camera, and went to SeaWorld, Ohio, and made a very damaging video at the petting pool, which is a very abusive, most abusive pool tank in the SeaWorld. That's where everybody gropes the dolphins and teases them with food and all this. So he shot this powerful video. It was so powerful, we held a press conference in San Diego, where SeaWorld was headquartered. And Steve calls me just before the press conference and says, "I don't know what happened. Somebody must have broken my room last night and stole the video. I don't have it." So we had to cancel out the press conference. In reality, he gave it to Brad Andrews, who was the president who was there in town at the press conference. He gave it to him, and he works very closely with him even to this day. So that's the kind of, of course they want to know what we're doing.
Right.
Anybody can volunteer. Same is true with the Japanese police. Why would they not volunteer and help us join us in Taiji? It's easy to do. If you're looking for volunteers.
We
don't have any secrets. We don't have any lies, any secrets. Everything's an open book, and we don't care if you are part of it.
Is this an everyday thing?
Yeah. Yeah, if I come in contact, I don't come in contact with people that much anymore every day.
Right.
Frankly.
What are you and Lincoln doing right now in Bali and Indonesia? Like, what's going on there? I remember in the film, the Blood Dolphin film, there was a guy named Chris Porter, some wacko, who was from Canada, who had a bunch of dolphinariums out there.
Dolphin dealer?
He was a dolphin dealer.
Yeah, and so he was selling dolphins to the dolphinariums in Mexico.
Oh, okay.
Dubai, excuse me. And the dolphin trainers who worked on the Free Willy movie worked with him after that movie. In other words, those guys really weren't against captivity at all.
Right.
They're in it for the six-figure job they're going to get until the $20 million is gone. Then they're going to go back to.
Mm-hmm. Did you guys? Is that guy still an active dolphin dealer, or did you guys put the kibosh on him?
Oh no, he wouldn't be dealing. Nobody would. He's been outed. There's no way he could traffic in dolphins anymore. I don't know what he's doing. But he's out of business there.
So what's next for you guys? What's obviously Lincoln's got his documentary coming up that you guys are working on, but
he's working on it. I don't even think about it. I don't even know what exactly. It's his thing.
And you said obviously you guys have some stuff in the works as far as lawsuits in Japan.
Yeah.
But what other big issues are you trying to tackle at the moment?
It's the captivity issue, and it could change at any moment with another phone call or email or while I was sitting here with you, the aquarium closed.
Right.
Been trying to do that since 1970. That's what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. So what am I going to do about that? I don't know. I got to get out of here and go there and find out. That's how it works.
Right.
It's very organic. No matter what you plan, I'm planning. I want to go see my wife and daughter. That's what I would like to do. They're in Denmark.
In Denmark.
And we connect up in different parts of the world. When somebody wants to interview me, they'll fly me into Paris or something, and that's when I get to see my family. Or they'll come here, and what's next for me is to
it seems like you are just this, you're sort of a vigilante that goes after these these captive dolphins, and you try to you take them and you rescue them, and it seems like you kind of take it one piece at a time. Right? Like,
yeah.
Are there any, I mean, I don't know if you want to give stuff up in public, but like, are there any certain parts of the world that you are more focused on than the other than Norway, Japan? Indonesia, right?
Indonesia, Japan. That's the big one. Mm-hmm. The two big ones right now.
But it seems like the Indonesian government's working with you.
Yeah, they're partners.
Right.
The Minister for the Environment and the Minister for for Fisheries, she works with us. We want to build a really big one in Portugal. Portugal's on our radar right now. They have 35 dolphins in Portugal. All of them were born in captivity except for 2 that were captured in Pine Island, Florida, that are too old to come back to Pine Island, Florida. So they're going to need a sanctuary, a big, big sanctuary somewhere in Europe or somewhere in Portugal. Mm-hmm. We're working on that. When I leave here, I'll go pick up my wife, go put the car on the ferry boat and go to Norway and check on the whale, and then go to Portugal and get back to work on that. By then, maybe we will have to return to Indonesia if we have the 5 dolphins. We get a phone call that, come on back. We're gone. It happens very quickly. Things happen very quickly.
What do you think there's any one end all be all solution to all of this? Like if the president of the United States said, Rick, we're going to make you in charge. We're going to put you in charge of all this. You're going to be able to make the final decision on all dolphin captivity. Obviously we can't control the entire world, but we kind of do. What do you think a diplomatic end all be all solution would be to this problem?
Well, let's just look at are you talking about the industry in the United States or the industry all over the world? Because it's everywhere. But if you want to...
Let's start with the United States.
Okay, let's focus on just SeaWorld. What do you do about SeaWorld? Now it's closed. Mm-hmm. All those animals are lives hang in the balance. They need a sanctuary somewhere. They can't be released back into the wild. Many of them don't even know what that is. They've never seen the wild. I think the majority of captive dolphins, older ones, are psychotic.
Right. What do you do with them?
Sanctuary. Mm-hmm. A place where they can experience the natural rhythms of the sea, the tide and the current, the rain, the sunshine. These simple natural elements have healing properties. When they're inside of a tank, it's dead. There's nothing moving. There's nothing alive there. It's not organic. There's just a wall. Sometimes there'll be like in a sink or a toilet bowl, you see the water going down the drain. They'll just be looking at that because there's nothing else inside of this barren tank to look at. Mm-hmm. I have spent years underwater in these tanks with them. The tourists, the management, The authorities haven't. They don't know what they're doing. They don't realize how cruel that is. It's kind of like if you were in this room for the rest of your life. Let's get rid of all this stuff that you can look at and interact with, and there's nothing in this room. How long would your mind be healthy?
Right, not very long.
Well, that's what they do until they go fucking crazy. So if you put them, as soon as you move them, like when we take them out of the hotel swimming pool in Bali, get them in stretchers. Lincoln will give you this footage. You can do it voiceover. Mm-hmm. And we take them to a truck. There's a box waiting. Box is about the size of this table, only longer. And it has some water in it, maybe a foot. It's got big, thick foam rubber soft padding in it so that when you place the dolphin stretcher inside the box, the stomach, all of the weight, 350 pounds is on their internal organs. So you got to compensate for that.
Right.
As soon as we get them to the sanctuary and place them into the sea pen, they're, for the first time since they were captured, experiencing the sounds of the sea. There's a lot of sounds that they're hearing for the first time. And what we want them to remember who they were before they were captured. We don't teach them, we don't train them to be wild again. You can't train a dolphin to become wild again.
Right.
They didn't train Keiko to become a wild orca again. The training itself is the problem. Training it to do more is not going to solve the problem. Nature heals them. The salt water has iodine, has healing elements in it, catching their own fish. In captivity, they're simply opening their mouth and somebody is dumping a dead fish in their mouth. Mm. Living is actually chasing that fish. The hunt itself is living, and that was all taken away from them. So you have to get them in a place where you have to give them back all the things we took away from them when they were captured, and and that's what heals them. It's not they heal themselves. Mm. Some of them cannot be free during the whole process. You can watch what they do and how they act. Example, one of them was banging his head against the dock constantly. We knew there's something wrong with this guy. We're not freeing him.
Right.
So you have to watch him every single day, all day long and all night. And you're playing God because you are going to figure out whether they're going to be free or they're going to be in here the rest of their life, whatever happens to them. It's a huge responsibility. I take it very serious too.
But looking at it from a numb capitalist perspective, how do you incentivize corporations to walk away from billions of dollars and put money into something like this that doesn't generate any sort of profit?
I don't. I would be a waste of time. They're not going to. I don't have any expectations of the government fixing it. I don't deal with them. I don't listen to them. I don't pay any attention to them. The customers, not the customers. The only hope, and I've thought about this, it sounds awfully simplistic, but the only solution is for people to stop buying tickets. There is no other solution. They're never going to stop. It's not going to happen. You can waste your time doing that if you want to.
Right.
But it's based on supply and demand like any other product. You stop buying this Bud Light or whatever it is, they're in trouble. Mm-hmm. It's up to the consumer. So our work is really about educating the consumer. So when we're doing a release, that's why these dolphin releases or sanctuaries are so important, because for the first time, the audience, same people who are buying tickets, are seeing this process and learning for themselves. Oh, yeah, I get it now. I get it. They're not going to get it from the propaganda that the owner is telling everybody on the chain all the way down to the trainers, because I was I was the head trainer at the SeaWorld. I know how it works. In order to be successful, that trainer has to become a professional liar. You have to lie to the customers every day when they ask you questions. You have to lie to the media, and worst of all, you have to lie to yourself every day. What do you lie about? 3 things: education, research, and conservation. Mm-hmm. That's what we're doing here.
Right.
Well, they are 5%, yeah, in those rescues and stuff.
Right.
Yeah, you're great work.
Exit through
Nobody
the gift
does
shop.
it better. Yeah, that's 5% though.
Right.
And all of the dolphins, everything you see in Taiji, that massacre is you could directly connect it to those people who are selling tickets to their dolphin area, because it's the copycat syndrome over here that keeps fueling them. And they don't police their own industry. So fuck those people. I don't deal with them.
Right.
They don't like me. I don't have a pathological need to be liked, so I'm okay with that.
Do you maintain any relationships with any former dolphin trainers that you used to work with or that are currently involved in any of these operations? Do you ever talk to them, or do you ever have interventions?
No. I'm in touch with a couple, but they've left recently, and there'll be more at the SeaWorld now.
I can't fathom how a person who would want to dedicate their career to spending time with these animals, you have to be passionate about this
No, you
topic.
don't.
And you have to, if you're a trainer, don't you make some sort of a connection with these animals? And how could you, if you are that person?
Though. It's not real. It's the same dilemma, duality I live with the flipper dolphins. Yeah,
You walk away, you go home, and you live your life.
Yeah, you were trying to get them to be your friend, and it's a Stockholm syndrome at best.
Right.
At best.
Right.
I was going through the Stockholm syndrome in reverse, where I wouldn't even let people come around the dolphins. I became one of them, one of the dolphins, and I was rebelling the same way they were, because I could see how wrong this whole thing is. Now, if I wanted to at that point, SeaWorld hadn't been built yet. I had a reputation as the highest paid dolphin trainer in the world. I could have been running SeaWorld. I could do that when I leave here. I could go down to the Bahamas, start a dolphin swim program with 2 or 3 dolphins, and be making $3 or $4 million a year. But I wouldn't be able to sleep at night.
Right.
Instead, I go to Taiji, where I can't sleep at night. Oh,
How long
gosh.
till you go back to Taiji? You're going to go back this summer?
The only
this fall?
reason I'm not there now is
I want to go with you.
We don't have enough money to go back. I should be there right now all the time. I shouldn't leave there. Because during those 6 months, I could be putting events together in Tokyo. We did one with Matt Sorum, he's not just a drummer. He's really good singer, songwriter, and so he could entertain the whole. We invited all the Japanese activists to this vegan club, and they all came, and it was so successful they became all the Japanese protesters.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're the ones who are there now, and so the problem is in Taiji, but the solution is in Tokyo. And getting them to step up and take ownership of this. But to do that requires money. For me to go to Japan, I have to fly business class now at 84 because I can't sit in the chair that long.
Right.
The last time I did it,
Packed in like a sardine.
the last time I did that, it was about 6 or 7 years ago. I remember getting up from the seat. The light came off, and it said you can walk around the plane. I was going to the bathroom. I remember opening the door to the bathroom, and the next thing I know, I'm lying in a pool of blood.
Oh, God.
And I'm hearing on the loudspeaker, if there's a doctor on the plane, I'm thinking, I think they're talking about me. And there's a woman in my face, very lovely black doctor.
Yeah.
She said, we have to turn the plane around and go back. You have a large gash. What happened was I passed out, and I fell backwards and hit my head and so forth. And it was I tell you how long ago it was. I had to be there for the world premiere of the Cove, the premiere in Japan at the Foreign Correspondents Club. It's a big, yeah. I said, don't turn this plane around. I have to be there. She said, I said, please listen to me. Just put some ice on it. When I get to the place, Tokyo, I'll get stitches and blah, blah, blah. But trust me, I'll be okay. They didn't really want to turn around anyhow, so they didn't. Mm-hmm. When I get to Tokyo, the wheelchair comes in, they take me down, and the guy says, it's too late, we can't sew it up now, you waited too long. They let me go. Now I'm going, but they shaved half of my head to look at it. Now I'm going to the premiere. I think I wore a hat or something.
Yeah, whatever happened.
So what happened was it's just exhausting, and I don't fly unless I get on the plane now and I lay down. Right. I've lost 2 friends on airplanes. Albert Grossman, Bob Dylan's manager, died on a plane like that.
How?
And Fred Neil's manager, I don't know how. Maybe your blood's not circulating or something. I don't know. But people do die on airplanes. Those who are laying down, I think, are. So I lay down, take a sleeping pill, and I wake up. I'm in Tokyo or wherever I'm going. Mm. That's how I do it.
Whatever happened with the people who?
But it's expensive. It's like $8,000 or something.
To fly first class to Japan?
Yeah. No, it's business class.
Oh, business class. Yeah, I guess it's not first class.
But it's still expensive.
You fly from LA, right?
It depends on where I am.
You connect
usually
through
from
Hawaii?
Denmark. From Denmark.
Oh, from Denmark.
I've been living in Denmark before I came here.
Right. So whatever happened with the people who were involved with purchasing the documentary in Japan? Wasn't there a group that purchased the rights in Japan for the documentary, and they somehow the Yakuza stopped the distribution of the documentary in Japan, like in theaters?
Oh, yeah, that went on for a long time. Yeah, and they would actually go into the distributor's house, the Yakuza. They have these black trucks with big megaphones on them. And they, on Saturdays and Sundays, they go to the homes of Koreans, Chinese, people they don't like. They're racist. They're like the KKK.
Really?
Oh, yeah. There's a lot of racism. You don't...
In Japan?
Yeah, people don't... There are places, they have this sign that says, Japanese only. Mm. And so they did this at the Taiji Whale Museum, which is actually a dolphinarium. And they're the #1 distributor of dolphins. So we go in there, we monitor them closely. One day we go in there and they had to sign up, can't buy a ticket, Japanese only. We took them to court, sued them, and won. And they had to take that down. It's racism.
Wow. Huh.
So I think lawsuits is the way to stop this thing, because the courts seem to be fair with they're
right. Yeah, well, that's hopeful.
Yeah,
that the Supreme Court system in Japan is working with you and you're being successful. Where can people that are listening to this, where can they get in contact with you, or where can they do anything to help the Dolphin Project and what you and Lincoln are doing?
Go to dolphinproject.com and take action.
What's take action mean?
Well, people, they can donate. They can come with us to Japan if they want to, mm-hmm. or volunteer to do different things. Maybe it's their shop. Buy a T-shirt. Support. Take action. Adopt a dolphin. People in this area are getting involved in that campaign. The Disney dolphins.
They're what?
Walt Disney World has a lot of dolphins.
Oh, well, Disney World has a lot of dolphins.
Their Living Seas exhibit used to have 100% mortality rate. Yeah.
We So you can adopt a dolphin, so you can basically pay to have a dolphin rescued. Is that what that means?
Yeah, when we rescue them,
mm-hmm.
and we have to feed them. It's very expensive.
Right.
People adopt it. That helps offset our bills.
Oh, that's incredible.
We are not part of the animal welfare industry. That's a big, big industry that I want nothing to do with.
Yeah.
We're outside of that. We're grassroots, and we're going to stay that way.
We got to get you on more podcasts. Why don't you do more podcasts?
I don't. I just did this because Lincoln kept pestering me. I don't like doing them, frankly.
We got to make you ubiquitous, man. That's the only way to let the people know not to buy tickets to these places.
Yeah, I know. I've done it for so long. I'm just tired of it now. After 70 years of it's, it's basically the same interview. The challenge is, how do I change the words? Right?
That's okay.
Yeah, but it'll wear you out too.
Well, thanks again, man.
Thank you.
I appreciate it, Rick. It's been a pleasure talking to you. Good night, everybody.